Hi there, welcome to my animation channel. Thanks very much for joining me again. Today I'm going to be uploading something different. I've got a compilation of some videos that I made 5 years ago. My channel's just over 5 years old now, and these videos were made of me constructing a movie, my very first movie, Trainspotter, which came out in March, April 2020, and I started working on it in February 2020. These videos are 5 years old, and I've just compiled them into one long video here, so it's almost an hour, so that's not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm just trying something different because I know there are some people who like to sit down and watch one thing continuously for however long it takes. So this is for you guys, and it's basically how I constructed this movie from the background to the character, creating the character and the assets, the train and the hand car and the background, and then constructing the run as well, and then putting it all together. So it's all in one place here. It's been scattered over 5 videos 5 years ago. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this, and I hope that you can get something out of it. Once again, thanks very much for joining my channel. So what we've done here is we've created a raster level in OpenToonz, and we are just sketching in the character, just a basic sketch to pose him. Then copy and paste that basic pose to in the same level to various other cells. We've done 5 here, but you can do as many as you want. That's the quickest way to sketch something in where only one body part or a few body parts are moving. So this is what we're doing here. We've got 5, and then I've got onion skins on, so that's the red line you're seeing there is the previous cell, and the green line will be the next cell, and we're just sketching them in. Basically what we're trying to do is just move his head, and there we have it. Right here, what we're doing here is we are just putting these cells into the X sheet. I'm putting them in 4s and spacing them out, and we are just placing this guy in the X sheet as a rough. We won't use this in the final. And then I've created a vector level, and using the rough level behind still in the raster, we are now tracing over to make the vector level, which is what we'll be using for the for the actual character animation. So here we're just tracing over what we did. On a vector level in OpenToonz, and now what we are doing is we're going to color this chap. So we create in the palettes, we copy. Basically when you open the palettes, it comes as a transparency and a black. Copy the black, paste it in the palette to the right there, and then you can fiddle with the color mixer at the bottom to get your required color. So that we've done that. We've got a skin tone, we've got a shirt, and we are basically just coloring this chap in. Very easy to do in vectors. all you have to do is make sure that all those lines are closed. Right, this character has been partially colored in, but at this stage I want to zoom in and show a little bit more of the detail that you can go to in OpenToonz. We're going to adjust the line thickness. You can taper the ends of the lines or even in the middle using the pump tool, which we've selected here. Basically how it works is that on the top left you have a slider, and the smaller the number, the more to the left there, the smaller the amount of the vector line it selects, and the larger the more of the line it selects. So you can finesse this thing. You can get it right down, or you can do the whole line. So that's what this pump tool does. Very, very handy. One of the nicer aspects to drawing in vectors. Another thing that I wanted to just go into a little bit more detail here is when you're putting in a second color to a flat color like this in OpenToonz, it's pretty straightforward. Here we're going to be putting our shadow color in, so we just we'll start with the highlight. Select the line tool with the color that you're going to use in this instance. It's a highlight, and you see how the line is above the outline of the character. So we're filling it here with the color. There's a way to get around that, which is very handy, which we'll get to right now. We're just putting here further down a shadow. We just it's as straightforward as I haven't named these yet. I do name all my colors, but I haven't done it yet. Just copy and paste in the palette a color swatch, and then you can go into your colors and give it a different hue, shade, whatever color, and that's as straightforward as it is. So here we've selected a shadow color with the line tool, and we filled it in. Right, what I want to show you here is how to hide that line so that it's not visible. Basically, to put it behind that black outline there. Pretty straightforward. Basically, it's the Control open brackets key that puts it down, and Control closed brackets key puts it up. So there we just use the vector tool to finesse that overrun, and there it is. Beautiful. Okay, so coloring is pretty much complete with this guy. I see there's one shadow that hasn't closed there, but we're going to zoom in on him and do some adjustments on his face. The plan here is to on the right there in the strip of all the frames, we want to have a variety of facial expressions so that later when we start animating him, we can just drop in these cells and have his eyes, mouth, etc. move. So that's all we're doing here, is we're just setting up the facial expressions. obviously need them to blink, and that's what we're doing here, and just more adjustments of the eyes. From one cell to the next, because you're in vector mode and it's flowing on, the actual face isn't moving at this stage between these cells. It's very easy just to get one right, one facial part, say the eye, the eyeball, the nose, whatever. You can copy it through all the cells. That's the beauty of vectors. What's happening here is we're doing that very thing with the jawline. I've noticed that his jawline is pretty bad, so I go and draw in a new jawline with a better curve to it, and then copy it all the way down in all those cells, so that it's consistent all the way through. So you don't have to draw it every time. You can just copy it, take out the previous vector line, paste it and close it up, so that you can fill it with color, and it's done. So our character is pretty much done. We've got 15 cells of him in various poses, and now it's just a case of setting it up in the X sheet, which will be our way of animating this guy. Selecting the facial expression that you need, and then dragging it across, literally clicking and dragging it across into the character's level or layer, column 6 here, column, and then it's just a matter of timing it, spacing the poses, etc., etc. So the fun stuff. So we just playing with those features here, just testing them out, and we're almost done. And that's pretty much it. There's the guy doing his turn and his facial expressions, and the only thing to do is drop him into the background of the scene. Today we're going to look at a background that I've been working on for my Trainspotter animation movie, and I'm just going to cover my process, how I got to the final. Pretty straightforward, but what you'll see is my influence on the actual artwork. The style is very Hergé, very Tintin-esque. That's because when I was a kid I was very drawn to Tintin and Tintin, Asterix and Obelix, but more so Tintin, and he had a very clear black line style of drawing, and nice clean crisp colors, flat colors that I liked, and that's definitely the style that stuck with me. So in animation, obviously every project is different, and I don't
intend to adhere to this style forever, or even beyond this project. But this animation that we're going to look at now, the background is very stylistic in that Hergé style. So please sit back, grab some coffee. I hope you enjoy what I show you. It's very sped up because these obviously take a long time and I don't want to keep you for too long, so I've sped up most of it, but you'll get an idea of my work method, my technique, and hopefully it's something that you enjoy. The idea for this short animation actually came to me while I was taking a shower. I don't know where you guys do all your good thinking, but I do my creative thinking in the shower. And I came up with a concept, and as soon as I was out the shower, I quickly sketched out this idea. I had it crystal clear in my mind, and this is the pencil sketch. Basically, it's two characters, a little boy and a little girl, waiting for a train to come out the tunnel. That's the opening scene. Since then, I've just made it one character, but to be honest with you, I might go back and add in the little girl. It's work in progress, but the background just started with this pencil sketch, and I started inking. Basically, hand ink. It's the easiest way to get stuff done quickly. At this stage, I learned quite a quick lesson that a little bit of planning goes a long way and can speed up your overall process if you just take a bit of time to plan. Why I say this will become clear in the next scene when I show you me undoing a mistake that I'd made. Here I am putting ink to the straight onto the pencil line artwork, and this will all be scanned in or digitally taken in and fixed up and colored in Photoshop. The mistake that I made was that if you look at it, this tunnel entrance, if you follow that railway line, would pretty much be popping out to the left there where the trees are. It's not deep enough, and I didn't take that perspective, and here I'm just showing the actual lay of the land with red lines and where the tunnel was right there, and you know, and there's a railway line as it was, and if the tunnel was to extrude out the other side, it would pop out that. It would be a very short tunnel, let's put it that way, and those trees wouldn't be there. You'd have to have another hill. So this is fixable. It's not a problem, but you can circumvent having to do this by just taking 5-10 minutes to actually plan your scene instead of just jumping in bits and all like I did. So that's a tip right there for you guys to use, girls to use. Plan your scene better and you will spend less time fixing it up. Right, so here we're on to photoshopping, putting in the color. We fixed up the tunnel and we've widened it for the scene, and we just adjusting colors here, dropping it in. Pretty simple, straightforward stuff on Photoshop. I'm keeping the background quite dark for a bit of atmosphere. I like the dark trees right at the back there in black, that inked look. I like that. Basically for this kind of scene, the trees I'm trying to give a bit of depth to, a bit of dimension to, with shadow and with some bark. So we're doing that here, and I'll do that the same thing to the tunnel. Try and give it a bit of depth, so that the artwork appears flat. Well, not flat, clean, but not flat. It has some depth, some working to it. So here we're just photoshopping some depth into the opening of the tunnel. All the signal work for this railway tunnel was researched, and I don't know if I got it 100% correct, but it's close. And again, in retrospect, I could have done some of this a bit cleaner, and maybe I'll come back at some stage and clean it up. Once we are finished with the photoshopping, we export it as a JPEG or PNG, and we pull it into OpenToonz, create a new level. I've used a vector level here, and just import the JPEG or the PNG into that level, and there's your background. What I've also done is I've created some additional assets in the way of a flower and some grass, some leaves, and put them on different levels so that you can put them foreground, background, play around with them, and this is to give it a bit of depth. And obviously we'll be animating that at a later stage. It'll blow in the wind, and ultimately we'll have some butterflies or bees moving around to give it some interest, and that's what we're doing now in OpenToonz. So this is all on separate levels, but the main thing is the background there is on the one level, and that's pretty much done. This is one of the assets that I created earlier, a flower, and when I dropped it in front of the background, I found that the edges were rather pixelated, so I've taken it back into Photoshop and we are smoothing out the edges so that you don't have that pixelated look on it. Not much work, but this kind of stuff you got to do. So the flower's been fixed up. It's got smooth edges now, and we duplicate it. And now we are back to Photoshop. We have to extend this scene to the right there. So I'm doing a very rough sketch in here, and hopefully it works out okay. The scene needs to extend more to the right, because the train will be coming left to right, and the character will be watching it move to the right. So again, not good planning to start with, and if you take anything away from this video, it's your planning better, or better than I did. Do planning, it'll save you time. This can all be fixed up. I mean, it's pretty straightforward to fix it up, but if you plan your scene or plan your shot with better detail, you can get around this, having to do this. So here I am drawing this tree and a rather big rock that is on a separate level in Photoshop. Idea being again that the train will be passing behind it. And I've just extended the railway and the background behind it on the original level. So layer. So we have two layers here. We have the original, which will have to be extended with the railway, and this bit that I'm working with now, which will become a bit of a foreground to the background, with the train going behind it. So we've drawn in the foreground rock and tree in Photoshop. Didn't pencil and ink it, went straight to Photoshop, and adding some detail, some depth and shadow, and take that layer or hide that layer, and then we're back to the original background layer where we're extending the railway out. I'm not too perturbed about what happens behind the rock and the tree here. In fact, I'm not worried at all, because it'll be visually blocked out, so we can leave that undone. But this little bit here on either side will be visible, so we have to take care to replicate that. And to speed up the process, I'm using a lot of cloning of the stonework, the gravel that's on the side of the railway, and that certainly speeds up the process. That's basically it. So there we are, it's done. There's our background. Just to go through what we didn't cover, we had to cut this out, or I had to cut this out in Photoshop, cut out some background so that we could place this layer. You import it back as a PNG file, so it has a transparent background. That white will be transparent, and you take this layer, drop it over the background layer, and that covers the train and all the objects that will be coming out of that tunnel, so it gives their appearance of there being a tunnel there. That we didn't cover. Here's the tree and the rock, which go to the foreground and block out that piece of railway that we didn't need to finish, and our assets such as the flower, the leaves and grass. Put it all together, and there is our background finished. With we putting in some rail lines to ascertain the perspective of the objects that we're creating here. In this case, we're starting with the with a hand car. So we draw the rail lines in first to create perspective and work off that. The end product of this hand car didn't have good perspective. You'll see at the end. I honestly don't know how I managed to do that because my perspectives are usually good. So we're going into a bit of detail here on the mechanics of this thing. Perhaps not necessary, but rather have too much than too little. We're just using shapes here, basic shapes, rectangles, circles, straight lines, and we're building this thing up. OpenToonz is very easy to work with in this way. I considered building this thing in Photoshop or in Illustrator and bringing it over, but you lose a lot. I've tried that. You'll see it later with the train. When you're bringing something in as a imported object or imported file or layer, you can lose a lot of resolution. It pixelates, etc. You don't get good color. Where possible, it's better to build it in OpenToonz. It's easy enough, it's straightforward, and you get that clarity that you get from a vector object. And so I can recommend doing that. Here we just we're kind of getting to the end of the actual object. We are adding a bit of detail, adding the rear wheels, layering this thing up so that the back objects are at the bottom, and that's pretty straightforward to do. Layer up or layer down as a group, so it makes it much easier to work with. Okay, the actual hand car itself has been built now, and it was pretty straightforward, and now we are populating it with our two characters. And this is quite fun because it's pretty clear where the characters' hands have to be on every cell You just have to join them to the actual handles of the hand car, and that's it. So it's not like a walk cycle where the character, he has carte blanche. Here the character got his feet firmly placed on the floorboards of this car, and his hands are firmly gripped to that handbar. Nice and straightforward, and fun to animate. Create the second character, the guy facing us, and it's the same basic system, starting with his hands fixed to the handbar of this cart, and the character itself will be animated off that. So as those handles going up and down, the character's hands will be going up and down with it. So that will be our attachment, and his arms and his body and his hips and his knees will just pivot and rotate around that. So quite nice to animate this way. Quite unusual, because usually your character will be not fixed as such, unless he was doing something similar, like in a canoe where his hands are attached to a paddle or such. Usually a character is pretty free, and he's doing a walk cycle or run cycle or whatever. Here his feet are fixed firmly to the planks of the car, and the only things actually that are moving are his hands. So kind of reverse animation if you want. It's quite nice because it's unusual, and it's also quite nice because it's pretty straightforward to animate. You have feet fixed, hands moving, and the body itself is pivoting and squashing and bending around it. So quite nice, quite simple animation, quite fun. Okay, once we've set this thing up so the two characters are on the cart, it's time to position it on the track. So we need to scale it up or down to fit the track, and this is where, as I was saying earlier, the mistakes can be seen. The perspective is not good on this. You can see as it's coming out the tunnel here, the angle of the leading edge is not right. And also the far wheels are not affixed to the track. That is problematic, but at this stage it's not going to spoil the animation as such, so we're leaving it in. It is something I can come back at a later stage and fix. So once we have our car size-wise sorted and placed, we are just setting up the animation of it on the X sheet in its own column. We have now the car and the two characters on one separate column. We are going through the X sheet and placing the cells so that as this thing moves, the jacking motion is happening. And also what we're doing is we are animating this cart so that we're moving it along the track. We are animating the scale as well, so it gets bigger as it comes out towards us, and that's it. That's basically it. are setting up the train, we have taken a screenshot of the background and brought it into our vector platform. In this case, I'm using CorelDRAW. You can use whatever vector program you have or drawing program. I'm using preferably a vector program. So we are drawing perspective lines to get this perspective on this train right, adjusting the windows at the front, the windscreen, etc., so that the perspective is true. Once we've set up the train's perspective, we can export it as PNG files and bring it over into OpenToonz, set it up in a new column and import it. What we'll see here is that it pixelates very quickly the second half of the train, because as it's coming out the tunnel, it's getting bigger and bigger. The pixelation gets out of hand. So basically, it's back to the vector drawing package, CorelDRAW, and we are chopping up the train. So we are dividing it into 3. Export it as PNG files and bring them in. So instead of animating 1 object, we're now animating 3. So it's a little tricky because you have to get the perspective right. That's probably the main thing here, is getting true perspective, because you will see if it's out of perspective, because it's so long, it's going to be quite obvious. The scale as well was tricky. So again, like the hand car, when it comes out the tunnel, it's small. As it exits screen right, it's quite a bit larger, and that's a matter of scaling this thing as it goes. Being a long object, although there are 3 parts to this long object, the front and back will be at obviously different ends of the screen, and so it's a bit finicky scaling it. But hey, what's animation if not a challenge? So a lot of tweaking, a lot of trial and error. This took quite a bit of time to get this right. Having a train coming out of a tunnel, pretty straightforward, you'd think. Well, it wasn't. It turned out to be quite finicky and quite tricky, but also fun. It was a challenge. contact so that it's a nice smooth move. What I found really helpful was to use a basis of marking. So every fifth window, actually 5.5 windows, each carriage would meet a certain point on the screen, and in this case it was the edge of that rock at a certain height, and so that was quite helpful in getting this to move left to right smoothly. And once again, it's coming at you at a certain angle, so you do have that perspective challenge. But I think we nailed it, and we're just doing some final tweaking here, but pretty much it's done. The train is exiting very smoothly, which is what we're looking for, and we're done. Right, so what we want to do is set up a 24 frame run cycle, and the reason it needs to be 24 is that we're doing this in ones. Usually in slow animation, etc., you'd maybe use 2s and 3s, but for this run cycle, because it's fast, we are going to do it in ones. So we're going to start here with a contact frame. Our second keyframe will be a compression frame where the leg is bent and it's in contact. Our third frame will be an extension frame where the leg is straight but it's still in contact. And our fourth frame will be the off contact frame where the move has taken place and the foot is up. Once we've done it in four keyframes, we'll copy that over and we'll do the same for the opposite leg. So here we're doing it for, say, the right, R, and here we're doing it for the left. So it's basically the same thing except with the left leg. We'll call this keyframe 5, and etc., etc. So this will be the compression. As with the above frame, it's still in contact with the ground. That's 6. This will be the extension where the leg is pushing off. It's straight but still in contact with the ground. That's 7. And this will be the same as above where the leg has, the foot has taken off from the ground, and that'll be 8. So we have our 8 keyframes there, and basically we will, to make it 24, just in between it. So these are keyframes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And to make it 24, we're going to keyframe. We're going to in between with 2 frames each in between every keyframe, and that'll make it 24. So that's how you do your run cycle. So you'll start here at 1 with a keyframe, 2, 3, 4. Do it with the opposite leg. So start with the right leg, say. It could be left, but let's start right. And then you do the same on the left. So you have 4 keyframes down here. Then you come back and you in between them. So your keyframe 1 will stay 1. Then you'll in between it with 2 and 3. Keyframe 2 will become 4. This will be 5 and 6. Keyframe 3 will be 7. That'll be in between 8 and 9, 10, etc., etc. So 5 will become 13, 14, 15. 6 will become 16. 17, 18, 7 will become 19, my math's going a bit crazy, 20, 21, 8 will become 22, 23, and 24, and then you're back to 1. So that is basically the run cycle, how to get it into 24 frames easily, and that's how you do it. So now that we've got that sorted, we sketch it out. Here I've done on the top line the first 4 keyframes of the right leg, and on the bottom line I'm doing the left leg keyframes, the 3 contacts and the lift off. And we scan that in or take it into Photoshop, separate it and run it into OpenToonz in a column. I'm just spacing it out here, and we play that through as our pencil test, and there's the guy running. So now that we've got the keyframes of the guys set up on the pencil level layer, we create a new column. I'm doing this in vectors. I find vectors easier to work with, and we create a vector column and we start doing the outlines around the sketch. We'll do this for all 8 of them. We're bringing in the color from the character because this is an existing character that we've animated before. So we've done a snapshot and we're pulling in the color to use the same colors off the palette. Also to reference this character just to get his look so it's consistent all the way through. Here we are just manipulating the vectors and we are setting this guy down against those 8 keyframes that we set out earlier on the pencil level. Looking pretty good. A lot of the reason I like using vectors or vector level is that you can do, as you see here, I'm doing a lot of copying and pasting, and you can take the entire leg and just copy it from one frame to the next and just adjust it. And I find that a lot easier than raster where you're redrawing it all the time. Personal preference, I've done raster animation as well, and you may prefer to use raster levels where it's more drawn. But for ease of use and definitely for this demonstration, I'm using vectors. You see I'm bending the arm here and moving the head, and this is what I like about using the vectors. It's you don't have to redraw everything. Although that being said, you do adjust. You spend a lot of time adjusting things. So I don't know, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Maybe it's not that worthwhile time-wise to use vectors, but I believe it probably is because you have advantage for coloring and stuff like that. You just click in the object and it's filled. So to me, vectors are much easier to work with, but this is not a solid rule. You can get a nice hand-drawn, a nice more natural look with rasters. You get that nice broken pencil line type look, which you won't be getting in the vectors. So here we are doing the background. The original background is being used, and I've copied and pasted parts of it left and right. And as you can see, it's not looking great. I don't feel I need to, or didn't feel I needed to create a brand new background. I'd rather use what I have and just stretch it. So that's what I've done here. And I'm going in and fixing up all the shadows and the details like grass, etc., etc., and also putting a bit of a new layer, a new level on the foreground that he will be running on. So now we have the character placed on the background, and what we're doing here, the character's run cycle is done. That's on the X sheet, and all we're doing is we are placing the character using the animate top left button. The animation button is on, it's blue, and we are positioning him on the horizontal and the vertical. We start by placing key frames where his feet contact and leave the ground, and then a keyframe in the middle at the top of his rather looping hop run. And the way I found the easiest way to do this is to measure it out. And what I've done here is I've taken a measurement slightly higher than his height, and that'll be at a run, the distance between his contact points of his feet on the ground. So I take a block, measure it out, and just extend that. And I find that is a very easy way or efficient way to pace this guy out. It's quite a undulating surface he's running on, so it's not a straight line. He's going up and down hills, so there's a bit of rotation we put in here and a bit of vertical lift. Here what we're doing is we're just doing some final tweaks to his run cycle. I wasn't that happy with a few things, so we're doing a few tweaks here on his some parts, some of the frames of his 24 frame cycle, and using onion skins again, the green and the red, showing the next and the previous frame. Pretty handy if you want to tweak it. And he is almost done. We're just finishing him off now, and then we're going to place him and do the render. And that's it. There's our guy running. Thanks very much for joining me, and we will see you again soon. Bye.
Ah.